One love to the humble, one love to the humble, one love to the humble. May grace and peace be multiplied unto you. Hey, I want to say one thing first. This is a request from the good brother Trey Day. And happy birthday to the good brother Trey Day. Hey, yo, many more. I wish you many more birthdays. You know what I mean? So let me get into this video. So this is about Trump versus Clinton. You know what I mean? Trump versus Clinton. Now, I'm old enough to remember Clinton being in office. Obviously, Trump been in twice. But what I remember when Clinton was in office, Clinton was like, he was the first black president. You know, but this way before anybody even thought anything about Obama and all of that. This was that time when he had black people right around his finger on the real. I mean, Clinton was that dude that had black people right around his finger. He couldn't do no wrong in the black community. They loved Bill Clinton. And they always been playing these games, right? But I remember when he brought out the saxophone, he was playing the saxophone. But everybody was talking about how he playing the saxophone. Black people were losing their minds when Bill Clinton was running for office. I found it to be it was funny. I mean, I didn't understand what I was looking at the time, but I remember it. And now, we had some presidents in between that, and then we got Barack, and then after Barack there was uh after Barack there was Trump, and then it was Biden, and then we're back to Trump again. But it's very different now. People don't see Trump the way they view Biden or the way they view Barack. So, excuse me, these days people are really things are a lot worse than what it used to be. I'll put it that way. When it comes to politics, it wasn't so. I mean, it was kind of bad then, but it's like crazy now how much it has divided us. Politics has really divided the nation. Something serious, and I believe that divide really started when Barack got in office. Just to be honest with you. But anyway, I got some stats here that I'm going to go over between the difference between Clinton and Trump when it comes to helping black people. So when you look at Bill Clinton, right? So I'm gonna get to the policies and actions supporters highlight. These are the policies and actions that Bill Clinton supporters highlight. So they talking about the economic expansion that happened in the 1990s. Um, During Clinton's presidency, the U.S. economy grew rapidly, right? Supporters say that poverty rates among Black Americans had declined. They say the Black middle class growth increased. They say employment opportunities expanded. And they say that many Black Americans experienced economic improvement during the 1990s. Boom. Now, that might be true, might not be true. Now, that's something that I'm not old enough to really know if that took place or not. But I do remember that during that time, Black people loved Clinton. So when it comes to cabinet diversity and relationships, Clinton built strong relationships with many Black leaders and churches. He appointed prominent Black officials, including Ron Brown, Colin Powell, and he was. Now I do remember Colin Powell. Colin Powell was a top military official, so I remember him. And he was sometimes nicknamed the America's first Black president, as I was saying. So Clinton was during that time they called him the first Black president because of his political and cultural connection with Black communities. Now it's a thing that's been can't stop yawning for some reason. Mm. That's a thing that's been going on since forever. The Democrats have always had this connection where they play this game on Black people, right? To make them think that they down for them and all of that. So the earned income credit expansion, Clinton, he expanded the earned income tax credit, which helped many working class families, include millions of black households. I wouldn't know. I'm so sorry, man. I wouldn't know, but at this time, that's what was going on. Here go the major criticisms of Bill Clinton. Then he signed the 1994 crime bill. Clinton signed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. And the critiques, they argue that it increased mass incarceration, it disproportionately harmed black communities, expanded harsh sentencing policies, and some black leaders supported the bill at the time because crime rates were extremely high, but many later regretted its long-term effects. During the 1990s, people don't really realize, a lot of people don't, I think today, especially when it comes to black people, I think sometimes we want to we want to defend so bad that we defend the wrong things. And I mean, so those of us who've been around for a while, we know that black people, I mean, we are notorious people that commit crime. And yes, we got reasons behind all of that, but I ain't getting into all of that right now. I'm just saying we commit crime like no other. We've always have. And during the 1990s, it was no different because in the 90s, it was still, the crack era was still going. It started in the 80s, but it didn't stop in the 80s. It carried all the way over into the 90s. People still selling crack, still making a lot of money off crack and stuff like that in the black community. And most people might not have seen it, but if a black person argued against this, you didn't live near it, and that's good for you. But if you lived near the hood or you was around the hood, you saw how bad it was, you knew what it was. I lived in the hood. I saw it every single day. And I knew the effects of it. I knew how violent it could be, all of that. I was closely um, around. I was around this stuff real close, and but he did sign that program because black people just out of control. Black people just out of control, just like they are today. But today nobody's doing anything about it. But it was. See, the black people were with it at the time because it was a Democrat that did it, so they didn't really understand what he was doing. But what he did was cause a big effect. But they loved him so much that they let it slide. Plus, a lot of black people back then was different than black people today. Black people back then, yeah, we stood up for black people, but wrong was wrong. We didn't support wrong as much as we do today. As much as we do today. There's a hornet flying around out here. All right, so the welfare reform. Clinton signed the welfare reform legislation in 1996. Critics say it hurt poor black families. It reduced the safety net, and man, I hope that horn don't come over here. He signed a welfare reform and legislation in 1996. Critics say it hurt poor black families. It reduced the safety net and it increased long-term hardship for vulnerable communities. Supporters argue it encouraged employment and reduced dependency, which is what most of the time you want to do. These programs supposed to encourage employment. So you take them away so they can encourage people to go to work. But if you put more people on welfare, then of course they don't want to do as much work because you lose your benefits the more you work. So let's go over here and talk about Trump real quick. So when we talk about Trump, right, you gotta look at it like this. So Donald Trump, he had policies and actions. His policies and action supporters highlight this about him. Trump signed the First Step Act in 2018, and supporters say that it reduced some mandatory minimum sentences. Now, he reduced the sentences, whereas in Clinton was giving out more sentences. He expanded the rehabilitation programs. So people go to prison, go to jail, whatever, they got longer, bigger programs to help them when they get out. He helped address unfair sentencing disparities that affected many black inmates. So some inmates were getting time that didn't match the crime, So Trump came in, signed things, did things to make it so that it was more fitting. And the bill received bipartisan support and praise from some black pastors, activists, and entertainers. So they were supporting that. They praised it. They was glad that Trump had accomplished that. And before black unemployment before COVID, right? Unemployment reached record lows during Trump presidency, and everybody probably heard about that. Everybody knew that because during that time, everybody during Trump time, everybody was working. Black people was working. Supporters argue that about the tax cuts, deregulation, economic growth, and help create jobs and business opportunities. Critiques argued that the trend began during the Obama years and simply continued. Now I can say that when Trump was in office the first time, as a business owner myself, I noticed the benefits of it. I noticed when I did my taxes, the tax cuts I was able to get from running the business, and it was strictly based upon what Trump did. And then you get to the HBCU funding. Trump signed legislation providing more permanent funding for historically black colleges and universities. Supporters say this brought long-term stability to HBCUs. See, something you might not know about HBCUs is they struggle with funding. Like they don't get the same funding like big PWIs get, because the PWIs, the people that graduate as alumni, they always giving back money to the school. Black people graduate and they're not giving that back. But that's why HBCUs struggle to survive, not because of white people, not because of that. It's because the people that graduate from that school don't support it, and the people who got the money to give back, they don't give back. So the schools struggle with funding. But Trump made it so that funding won't be an issue, that they can be more stable. Opportunity zones created through the 2017 tax law to encourage investment in lower income communities. So that made it so that people that got money can invest in these lower income communities to build them up and have some money flowing through there. Supporters say many predominantly black neighborhoods benefited from the new development and investment. Very, very true. Anytime you develop new businesses, new investments come in, more money come in, it's going to help their community. And if you don't understand that, go look up how how built up your community is. Go look at how that affects the quality of things that they're able to do for you and give you in their community. Critiques argue wealthy investors benefited more than residents. Well, people will always find a reason to complain about something that somebody does, and there's always a benefit. You know, some people might be investing for whatever reason, but if you're putting up your millions, you should get back a little bit more, or you should be favored in some type of way as long as you're still helping that community. So here go the criticisms of Trump. Critics say his rhetoric on race and protest increased division. I don't think that's what it is, but that's what their opinion of it is. That's their criticism. But in reality, this started way before Trump. This division thing, it started with Obama, to be honest. But they like to blame it on Trump. They got to have something to blame on him. They can't say that he didn't do anything wrong. His responses to incidents like Charlottesville car attack alienated many Black Americans. Which, yeah, that would be. I can see that happening because of how we feel about race, how we look at race situations. We always looking at it from a somebody done something to me mindset. So that would in turn make us pull back from him because of the way he handled it. They say his administration was weakened. They say his administration weakened some civil rights enforcement efforts. I don't know. I don't know too much about that part, but that's what his critics say. They say he Trump consistently had low approval ratings among black voters overall. Well, I know that to be true because black people don't like Trump, and it's these days they don't like Trump. That has always been the case. Black people used to have no problem with Trump before he became president. Before he was president, black people didn't really care about it. They was all with him because they was, he was like hip hop at the time. So that's what did it. But here go the key differences in their approaches. Trump's approach was he was focused more on economic nationalism. He was focused on entrepreneurship. Like I said, I benefited from that. He was giving entrepreneurs a crazy break. He was more big on criminal justice reform. Later in his presidency, he was into lower taxes, and private sector growth. Clinton's approach was he was more traditional Democratic coalition politics, government programs mixed with tough on crime policies. Government programs, it sound good, but they're not good. And you mix that with tough on crime policy, you gotta it's one funneling right to the other. So I'm giving you programs. I'm not teaching you how to go and get it for yourself. You're still gonna come up short. That's why people that get food stamps sell it for money. You're still coming up short. So then you still gonna do crime, and then the bill gonna hit you from the other side. Bill, like Bill Clinton and his tough on crime bills and economic centrist policies of the '90s. And so that's what kind of how it was. And historically, Bill Clinton remained personally popular among many older black voters despite criticism over crime policies. And then Trump gained more black voter support than many recent Republicans, especially among some black men and entrepreneurs, though most black voters still oppose him electorally. Well, because he was about manhood, he was about showing men what's up. So that's why people supported him. Well, that's why men supported him, especially black men. And then black entrepreneurs, of course, they're gonna support him because most entrepreneurs are men who's running, respectable businesses. So the bottom line, people who emphasize the First Step Act, people who emphasize the First Step Act, entrepreneurship, pre-pandemic employment gains often credit Trump. People who emphasize the 1990s economic growth, democratic alliances, and social programs often credit Bill Clinton. At the same time, Trump is criticized mainly for rhetoric and racial tensions. Bill Clinton is criticized for mainly for policies tied to mass incarceration and welfare reform. Both presidents left complicated legacies in black communities. So it's up to you to decide after hearing this who you think, what about, and who you think had the most impact negatively or positively on the black community. It's one of those tough things, but you can kind of look at that and see which one it is. People don't like Trump because of the things he might say, but you can't always go by what a person say. You got to go by what they do. People might not like Clinton for some of the things that he's done, but they both have done things, but one has affected the other more. One has affected the population of blacks more than the other. And you tell me what you think. You heard what I said. You heard the things I read off to you. Tell me what you think. Who hurt us worse, Trump or Clinton? Y'all take care.